All right, howdy y'all. Taking a look today at a couple of battles in the U.S. Civil War. So what I need you to do is find this Antietam and Shiloh comparison assignment. And the first page is just a couple of quick notes so that you know about one of the two battles, right? I want you to learn about Shiloh on your own, but I'm going to talk to you quickly about Antietam. So if you open this document up, and you can see here the blanks that you're going to be filling in as you follow along with me. So we can't talk about all the battles, as fascinating as they are, but we are going to jump in with the Battle of Antietam. Now the date tells us that we're already a year into the war, right? 1862. So a lot has already happened. We're not going to get into every little detail. The South wins the first battle, the North runs away, all these different things. We're just going to pick a couple of battles and focus on them, okay? And really, the pictures tell most of the story, okay? Who's this guy? Why Britain is in here? And then making sure that we remember why these states are different colors, right? Okay. So here's General Robert E. Lee, a real genius, right? Certainly a slaveholder, certainly a racist, but definitely one of the key military leaders, the key military leader for the South from Virginia. He was coming off a big win at a battle just outside Washington, D.C., called the Second Battle of Bull Run. And the Confederacy won that. And that was a big deal. So Lee took a big gamble a year into the war. He knew that he had less men. He knew that he had less supplies, less factories, less railroads. So he knew that he needed to kind of do something impressive, right? So he goes into the North. He marches his troops into Maryland, which is part of the Union, and he tries to convince Maryland to join the Confederate States of America. Why did he choose Maryland? Well, because they're teal on the map. And if you remember, what that means is they're in the North, they're part of the Union, but they have slaves. And Lee says it's perfect. These people are like us. They understand that slavery is great. So we're going to march into Maryland, kick some Union butt. Then Maryland is going to be like, you know what? We should just join the Confederacy and maybe even convince Great Britain to help the South. Because Great Britain likes Southern cotton, and Lee knows that George Washington and Alexander Hamilton benefited from getting France involved. Maybe the South will get involved, or if the South can get Great Britain involved, maybe that'll help. So that's what kind of leads into this Battle of Antietam in 1862. Two crazy things happen, right? McClellan, who's the Union general, is super excited because he finds the Confederacy's battle plans. They leave them behind accidentally, kind of hidden, kind of like hidden so well that they even forgot that they hid them there. And then the Union has this huge advantage because they've seen what the South's plans are. Now, for the Confederacy, for the South, General Lee, brilliant guy, has a good strategy, but number one, the other side has his plans. Number two, he doesn't have as many troops. And number three, the dudes are tired, and the ladies. Everybody that's marching is tired because they had been marching for a long time. There's no railroad they can jump on. There's no helicopter. There's no Humvee. So they're pretty tired. So we get into the battle itself. Fascinating if you want to read about all the ebbs and flows of the battle. But ultimately, General Lee for the South realizes that he can't keep doing this. He doesn't have enough. So he retreats back to the South. Plan didn't work, right? He essentially runs away because he knows that he doesn't have enough to support an attack. Now, this is where the story is interesting, and this is why we follow this battle in particular. General McClellan of the Union, he's looking around and he's saying, we might have won, but we've got 12,000 dead and wounded soldiers. That's half of South St. Paul. We've got 12,000 dead and wounded soldiers. And so I don't want to go chasing after the Confederate troops, even though they're running away. That's a good time to crush an army, is when they're running away because they're pretty weak. But he's worried about how many losses he's had. And therefore, because he doesn't chase after the South, Lincoln fires him. So McClellan is out, which is going to pave the way for a new leader, which we'll talk about later. So Lee retreats because he knows he can't win. McClellan won't chase after him, and he gets fired. Lincoln is upset because he thought that was the chance. The other reason that we look at Antietam is 23,000 people. That's more than every man, woman, child, and gecko in South St. Paul. So more than South St. Paul, total population, dead and wounded on both sides total. The single bloodiest day of the Civil War. And get this, and of all previous fighting by the United States to that point combined. So before this day, add up all the dead and wounded, still doesn't equal the 23,000 dead and wounded from this single day. Now this is a picture of Arlington National Cemetery. It exists today just outside Washington, D.C. It used to be Robert E. Lee's plantation. Now it's the cemetery for our country and usually our military. And it's a very humbling place to go when you realize that each and every one of these headstones is a soldier. And you can even find headstones dating back to the Civil War. It's a very powerful place to visit. Now this one we just want to kind of file away in our memory banks. The victory at Antietam for the Union gives Lincoln the political power to introduce this idea midway through the war called the Emancipation Proclamation. We'll go over the details of that, but what you need to know is that Antietam gives Lincoln the power to initiate the Emancipation Proclamation, which we'll spend a lot more time on in a little bit. And, as we said, it makes it very unlikely that Britain will support the Confederate States of America. So, fighting isn't everybody's favorite thing to study, and definitely not something we're going to spend a ton of time on. But this battle in particular is pretty important to kind of set the stage, even though it's right after the first year of the war. It sets the stage for kind of how things are going to go from here. Oh, that's awkward. I can't get it to stop. Sorry, everybody.